before my injury, I would have thought it's all quackery, it's all fake, this is impossible, it's all woo-woo. I would have not even believed any of it.
Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. Today we have Brandy Gillmore with us. Brandy is a researcher and mind-body healing expert who is going to show us that radical healing is possible using only the mind. Welcome, Brandy.
Thank you so much, Linda, for having me. It's wonderful to connect with you. And I love this whole title and theme of the mystical side of life. It's an incredible space to play in. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely incredible space. And it's so important that we open those limiting thoughts about what we believe is true and what we believe is possible, because there is so much more going on behind the scenes, as you know from your research.
Absolutely. You know, before my injury, I would have thought it's all quackery, it's all fake, this is impossible, it's all woo-woo. I would have not even believed any of it. And my injury was back in 2003. So we're talking over 20 years ago now, but still, I mean, just the awareness of how incredible our minds are. And most people don't even realize, you know, how to heal and how to get radical results. And so it's just truly incredible the more you understand it. So I love that.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the state you were in and how the possibility opened for you that you could actually heal through your mind?
Absolutely. You know, again, this is the last thing I thought I would be doing. I used to work in network engineering and operations and in technology, you know, telecommunications. And basically I had an accident and technically two. I had a car accident and then I had a fall. And I fell just wrong, just right, however you want to say it. But I literally went from living a full life to needing a wheelchair or walker or cane to get anywhere, and on morphine 24/7 and in extreme pain and spending most of my days in bed. And I was just an absolute mess. And basically, when my doctors told me that I wasn't going to heal, there was nothing else they could do for me. I started looking for, you know, supplements and diets and anything outside of the box. And the more everything didn't work, the more I kept going outside of the box. And then meditation and positive thinking and affirmations and all that stuff wasn't working either. And so it just made me continue to just research and start understanding why and how it could work and what I needed to do to get real results.
And so how did you get to the point where you decided you could heal yourself? Because those are all things outside of yourself you were looking at.
I was. And basically I had been trying like everything. Like at first it was, I saw the placebo, you know, and started researching that. And I thought, of course, it's proven that our mind can impact our physical body. And what was also interesting was the nocebo, the awareness that we could believe that negative things would happen just from a fake pill. So, you know, a placebo or nocebo is simply a fake pill. And all of these physical things could happen to our body. And so I could see that our minds could influence our body. I just couldn't figure out how it was happening. And so at first I thought maybe it's all about the power of belief, because everything kept saying belief, belief, belief. And so I was forcing myself to believe I was already healed and chanting it in affirmations and thousands and thousands and thousands of affirmations. And it wasn't working. And then I found something called the open label placebo, which is where both the doctor and the patient both know it's fake. So it's literally open label and it can still work. And I said, okay, well, clearly this is not all about belief then. And so I continued to research. And the more I found these anomalies, the more I could see that everything was pointing to the power of the mind. For example, even multiple personalities. When a person has multiple personalities, they can have different ailments in different personalities. They could have back pain in one personality and instead asthma or incurable allergies in another. And it's medically documented. It's not like they're just pretending to have them. Like their blood pressure can be different, their body temperature, their vital, like all of these things. High blood pressure in one personality, but not in another. Things that you can't just make up. And then you can also have a personality, they can have a personality that is completely healthy. And I thought, wait a second. So between that and the placebo, and then also the awareness that stress impacts the body, just everything kept pointing to the mind as having that missing key. And so that's what I started doing, saying, okay, well, how does this work? And how can I use this in a practical way to get results? Because I had done the meditation, I'd done the positive thinking, I had done the binaural beats and the theta state and all the things. And while it could get my pain down, it didn't change my life. It didn't heal my body. And so that I would say was pivotal to me, is just seeing all of the research that showed, yes, the power's in our mind, but how do we use it? That was key.
Yes. How do we use it, Brandy? How do we tap into it?
A great question. I love that you asked. It's going to sound kind of ridiculously simple, and there are some, of course, specifics behind it, but a few key insights that were really pivotal is from simple first, is if we look at emotions, different emotions affect the body differently. If somebody's embarrassed, their face can turn red, or panic attack, racing heart, shortness of breath, or somebody can unfortunately die of a broken heart syndrome, or scared to death. And so what I started looking at is different emotions could have a very different effect on the physical body, even sexual thought, sexual physical response. Obviously, it's different for men or women, but we can see that there's a different physical response. And so one way that I was looking at is I started looking at and saying, okay, well, what is the specific emotional pattern that's affecting my physical body? And the way to think about the pattern, because I know some people have heard of, trauma healing or different things like that, but it's beyond that. It's not about the trauma itself. It's really about the pattern. And so that's one piece, is the pattern. And said another way, let's say that somebody has a pattern of feeling rejected and a pattern of feeling rejected. They might have traumatic instances along the way, and yet those feelings can perpetuate. So even if they address one of the traumas, they don't necessarily clear up the pattern. But when you really look at the pattern and transform the pattern, that is a key to getting radical results. Now, another key is that it takes multiple emotions. And a simple way to illustrate it is like this, is that we can look at, for example, the example that somebody can have PTSD, where they can be severely traumatized and yet not be sick. And yet somebody else can have less stress, less negativity, less trauma, so to speak, and have an illness. And what I began to realize is it depends on the certain combination of emotions. And a simple way to think about it is like this, is that if somebody wants to make cake and they have flour, they cannot make cake. But if they have flour and they mix it with eggs and butter and other ingredients, or vegan eggs and butter and other ingredients, then they can make a cake. Now, obviously, illness and pain is different than cake. It is not cake, but point being is that different ingredients create a different recipe. And so it was about understanding the specifics and then changing those. And that's what has enabled me not only to heal myself, but also to heal and show others how to heal themselves and even get results under medical equipment.
Well, that's pretty interesting that you actually have results that you've proven through medical equipment. Can you tell us a little bit about the shift you see when you work with someone?
So after I healed myself, I thought, people need to know this. Like, people need to be able to see we really can do this. And so what I started doing is I actually reached out to Dr. Hilary Smith, and she's been a chiropractor for over 30 something years. And now she does medical thermal imaging. And I asked her to start scanning people while I work with them. And so she's scanned them. And the way to think about it is like this with medical thermal imaging. If we think about maybe a sprained ankle or an infection or any type of injury, it can generate heat. And so medical thermal imaging is able to pick up on any heat from an injury or pain or inflammation in the body. And so when she would scan people, if we picture somebody who has neck pain, she would scan them and you could see that the scan was all red over the neck area, which showed, hey, there's a lot of pain in this neck area. And while she was scanning them, I would then talk to them and coach them on how to use their mind and change the specific patterns. And as they do, you literally see the scan change from red to green as their pain goes away. And you can see it in real time. And even, I had some of these case studies published in a medical journal last year. And in it, you can see that 22 minutes, 25 minutes, 27 minutes, you can see people taking their pain levels and alleviating their pain using their own mind. So I'm not doing it. I'm just showing them how to use their mind.
And now, is this like a temporary thing? Like you'd mentioned before that you listened to binaural beats and did meditations and that helped, but the pain came back.
That is a really great question. Now, I can tell you this. First and foremost, I have been healed for over 13 and a half years and not in pain, but this is what I see is I've seen people who all of the time, they are able to shift their mindset and the pain never comes back. However, I've also seen people who go back into the pattern. So I always tell people, you have to make that genuine change. And a simple way to really illustrate it is like this, is that if somebody's having anxiety and panic attacks and they resolve that pattern of anxiety and panic, then the panic attacks go away. But if they go back into it, then of course it comes back. So it does take a real genuine change. And it's not just pain. I mean, there's a woman that I worked with who had a tumor in her throat. And the tumor had been there 4 or 5 months and she had tried everything and it wasn't going away. And it wasn't going away. It was there. And it was 5 millimeters. And she basically broke down and said, okay, I have to have surgery. So she went and had another pre-op scan and they rechecked it under the MRI and they could see it. It was there. And then her surgery was set for that same Friday. And her and I worked on that Thursday right before. And as we did, she couldn't feel the tumor anymore after we worked. But she still went to the doctor. And I always tell people, go see your doctors. Don't avoid your doctors. The whole goal is blow your doctor's mind with what you're capable of with your own mind. And so she went to the hospital the next day and they said, oh, well, we're sure it's still there, and she said, well, can you just check? And the ENT said, he's like, I can't believe this is gone. I've never seen anything like this in my 30 years of being an ENT, but I can't operate on something that's not there. And they canceled her surgery. And what I love about that is I've seen so many incredible radical results. The reason I love that one and I share that one all the time is because it wasn't an MRI that happened a month prior, 2 months prior, 3 months. It would just happen days and the surgery was right there. And so I love quantifiable. You can see it because even when I show like pain relief under thermal medical equipment, one of the things that I love is that it's right there on the spot, because otherwise somebody could say, well, I got a new pillow, or I slept funny, or I worked out, or there's some other variable. And so the reason I love taking people under medical equipment where it's live, where it's the live scan and you're showing it, is because you can see it's the mind. And you can also see it's not something like mind over matter or pretending like it's not there or avoiding the pain or discounting the pain or anything like that. You can see that there's a real physiological change. So I love to geek out on real tangible results. That's what I love.
Greg Braden used to show a video of a group of Buddhist monks praying over a person having bladder cancer surgery, and the tumor shrunk like on the camera in moments of these monks chanting and praying it. It's amazing to consider that our molecular structure can change really instantaneously. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
So, what other kind of symptoms, I guess I would call it, or conditions have you seen success with?
I have seen success with so many things. I mean, I've seen people who have like mast cell or rheumatoid arthritis or POTS. We're even characterized by low blood volume. So I've seen people who are bedridden because their body basically didn't make enough blood. And so as soon as they go to sit up or stand up, then of course the blood all goes down and then they faint. So they have to stay supine, who are now running, traveling, can run mini marathon, pain, eyesight, all kinds of things. You name it. I mean, to me, obviously, I have not worked with every single person in the world. There are 8 billion people in the world, but I can say that I've never seen an illness that didn't have an emotional component to it. And I would say that the key is in our minds. And one thing that really struck me as I was going through my own injury is I started reading information even that had been published in the Smithsonian, or even the awareness that our bodies are constantly repairing and replacing cells. And medical research has even shown that we have about a whole new skeleton approximately every 10 years. And of course, I thought to myself, well, then how is it possible for somebody to have that old football injury from high school if our bodies are constantly repairing and replacing cells? And when I started looking at it, like, it just, more and more things didn't make sense on how we could continue to have some type of injury. And so that too also had me really looking at the mind, and so many things didn't make sense. Multiple personality disorder. I mean, the awareness that somebody could be blind in some personalities, medically blind, not pretending to be blind, but medically blind in some personalities and not in others. It was fascinating to see how much our minds can influence our physical body.
Now, is all the work that you do really focused on the physical body, or do you do some mental health type of healing as well?
I mean, for me personally, it first and foremost, it is one and the same, because the mind affects the physical body. How I work with some people even as far as taking their business and their life and their relationships to the next level, because our thoughts help create our lives. And so I've worked with people who maybe even started out with some type of health issue, and then they saw how that health issue was affecting their business or their relationships. For example, this is how I look at health. This is similar to a check engine light on a car. And a simple way to think about it is, if you're driving a car and the check engine light comes on, it tells you, hey, something is off, you really need to fix it. And similarly, when we're going through life, if we have a health issue, what it's telling us is there's some type of pattern that's off, that's creating a problem. And so, as we know, we can look at the mystical and the energetic, and we say, energy attracts more of the same, or law of attraction. Or we could even look at it in psychology and psychoanalysis and say, okay, well, Freud's work. We could look at repetition compulsion or reenactments or attachment theory, where we can see that, a person can marry somebody like their mother or father, or an example I use all the time. Unfortunately, a woman can have an abusive father and leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, et cetera, et cetera. So these patterns, we manifest these patterns over and over. We just don't realize that we're in a pattern. And so point being is that ultimately what I work with is patterns and mindset, and how to shift the mindset and how to get results. And so whether it's healing and creating that change and creating that pattern shift, or whether it's depression and having mind disorders or emotional disorders and shifting those, or even attracting success and creating a radical shift in success and business. I've helped people go from losing millions to making hundreds of millions. I'm in LA, Beverly Hills, so I've worked with a lot of celebrities and, a lot of people who have big visions or big businesses and things like that. I've had an opportunity to work with some incredible people. And of course, I say incredible people, we're all incredible people. But yeah, so So I would say I work on the mind.
So you work with someone, how do you narrow down to what the pattern is? Sometimes maybe there's two patterns that weave together to create the circumstances, even.
Like the ingredients, multiple ingredients. There's always typically two or more, typically. So yes, and now we're going in deeper into the mystical. Is after I healed myself, I then got this ability to feel what other people feel or get information from universe, God, divine energy, whatever you want to call it. I call it universal Wi-Fi because I feel like we all have access to it, just like our cell phones are all connected to Wi-Fi or our computers are all connected to Wi-Fi. And so I just have a really clear channel of Wi-Fi straight to source energy or whatever you want to call it. And then I can feel what somebody's feeling and I can feel what they're feeling in their body and then in their conscious mind and their subconscious mind. So I'm kind of checking, okay, what is the pattern? When did it start? Did it start at age 5 or 6 or where is it and what ingredients? And so that's been a huge help in helping people. So then it's been really fast to be able to help people to identify the specific pattern and then patterns and then change them.
Is there anything you wouldn't work on?
Is there anything I wouldn't work on? You know, first and foremost, that is a fantastic question that I have never been asked out of all of the things that I've done. And is there anything that I wouldn't work on? Well, I guess when you ask that question, I guess somebody who wanted to attack me would be the first one that would. That's what comes to mind. Are you talking health or situation or circumstance?
I was wondering if you worked with, say, like schizophrenic people or multiple personality people.
I have worked with both. I've worked with more schizophrenic than multiple personality. When we start to look at it, everything that the mind does, it does for a reason. And the more we understand it, and one of the things is this, is a way to look at it is, you know, all the time people are trying to get rid of patterns or cut cords or do release techniques. But we also have to keep in mind that the brain can be miswired. And one way to think about it is that, you know, a cutter can cut themselves and experience a feeling of relief or euphoria or control or safety from cutting themselves. And while that doesn't make logical sense, that is what gets linked up in the mind. And similarly, a person may have a feeling of feeling pride in hardship. So if they have pride in hardship, they may want to get rid of the hardship, but then they also don't want to get rid of the pride. And so what happens is they're playing tug of war with patterns and they use all these release techniques and whatnot. And the brain may even want more trauma because it says, hey, I'm going to get pride or even sympathy. A person may feel like as a young child, they may have gotten it linked up that sympathy is love. And so then they want more love in life. Well, then negative, traumatic, or painful things have to keep happening. And so then they have these patterns that are perpetuating and they want to give up. They obviously don't want the problem. They're like, get rid of the problem, but then they want the sympathy. And it's like wanting one side of the coin, but not the other side of the coin. And then it becomes quite a struggle to then get rid of it. And so to make real change, it really is, yes, it's identifying the pattern, but there's a rewiring and a reprogramming and a repatterning that really has to take place at a deeper level to create genuine lasting change.
And so do you use energy or energetic techniques to repattern?
Well, it depends on how you define that because, you know, kind of just speaking in general, when it comes to energy, a lot of people think, you know, have thought that energy is just simply a spiritual notion. But if we think about energy and we think about that it is medically proven that our bodies are emitting light energy and that most people don't realize it, and many doctors don't even realize it. In fact, I was talking to a medical researcher a few weeks ago who read my book and was shocked and was like, energy, light energy is actually emitting from our bodies. He's been a medical researcher and very, very brilliant man, wonderful guy, beautiful heart. But he didn't know that our bodies were actually emitting light energy because this is research that has been buried. And to give even more context, there are studies even that are in the database that is basically, there's like a collaborative database between Harvard and the Smithsonian, and it's under the NASA agreement. And there are studies in that database that are as recent as last month that have studies on energy. So energy, very much, our bodies are emitting energy. It's medically proven that our bodies are emitting energy. And just a lot of even doctors don't realize that. And so, but to answer your question, there are also studies that show that our own minds can shift this light energy. And so when you ask, is it about shifting or working with energy? Well, absolutely, because research has shown that there's a direct correlation between our mindset, our thoughts and emotions, and our biophoton emissions, so our energy emission.
So you're specifically talking about mind energy as compared to, say, channeling a divine energy coming in.
See, I would say it is all the same. So I would say, so if we look at energy, so to provide context, let's say, so a few things. Okay, so if we look at photons, like a particle of light, kind of thinking big picture, if we think about a light bulb emits photons. So it emits particles of light, or the sun, it emits photons, particles of light. Our bodies emit biophotons. So they're particles of light from a biological organism. So that's why they're called biophotons. Now, they were originally discovered back in 1923 by a medical scientist, Alexander Gerswich. And when he discovered them, after discovering them, he was nominated for the Nobel Prize 11 times and actually won the type of Nobel Prize in Russia. So he won that. And so it was a huge thing. And that was a century ago. Now, the problem is that we haven't been able to decode this energy. And another problem is a lot of medical research has been done on cadavers. Cadavers don't emit light energy. And so that's kind of, and then most medical studies never even check the light energy of the body because it's hard to test. I mean, if you think about it, if our bodies are emitting faint light energy, it's called ultra weak photon emission. So if our bodies are emitting light energy, the only way to test the light energy from the body is to be in complete darkness. So the photons from light sources and the sun and all these things don't interfere. So in other words, to do a medical study on it, these places where you go to actually measure the energy of the body, it's like you're in this freezer, if you will, or closet that is like a vault, like a bank vault that you go into, and they shut the door and it's airtight, light tight, all of that. And so point being is that this light energy is always emitting from our bodies. Now, research has shown that this light energy can carry information and also affect cells. And so when we stop and think about it, some people might say, well, how does light energy carry information? But if you think about internet, cell phones, cable TV, it's run on fiber optics, which is what? Light energy. So it's a glass tube with light energy. And so this information, so I would say this information I would say it's all the same. It's literally light energy that's emitting from all of our bodies. And what's also interesting is even in studies, it is shown that, not only do our emotions can influence this light energy, but even, for example, frog eggs, like frog eggs and fish eggs. They've done studies where putting biophotons from one egg or even one plant root can influence cellular proliferation, so growth and all of that. And I don't want to get too technical, but basically it is shown that energy from one can affect another. Now, it also has shown that it can influence it in a positive way towards healing and in a negative way towards not healing, or it can stagnate growth. So there's different effects that this light energy can have, which was also interesting. But very simply put, our minds And our emotions, the feeling of anger or visualization or whatnot, can actually influence this light energy. And so it's incredible. And again, like if you look in this collaborative database between Harvard and the Smithsonian, there's new research studies that are being published. So top hospitals are looking at this. We just haven't been able to decode it. And a way to think about decoding it is kind of like if you have an email and it's written in a foreign language, then you don't know what it says. And so we can see that the body's emitting this light energy. And further, it's been shown that cancer cells emit different light energy than regular cells, or diabetes emits different energy than people who don't have diabetes. And that was a research study on type 2 diabetes. But multiple illnesses have shown different types of biophoton emissions. And so that's actually part of what I talk about in my book is exactly that, is understanding that we can go mystical and woo, but it's all like energy. Energy is real. And that's what I love, is it's just validating that the awareness that our bodies do emit energy and that it's incredible.
Your work is really interesting and exciting to think that this is the shift that we're going to be experiencing more and more and more.
We're incredible.
Do people come to you with a specific reason, or can you just like tune in and see what's wrong?
So I can just tune in, but a lot of times what I prefer people do is say, hey, this is the issue that I'm experiencing. And the reason for that is when I first got this gift to be able to feel what other people are feeling, very first time, at first I realized that I could feel if a plant needed water. I could pick up a glass of water and feel like a sudden glow that I needed water. And then I had like somebody came in and they had some kidney issues, and this woman walked in and all of a sudden I was like, oh, and she was like, so my right kidney hurts. And I'm like, yeah, actually I got that. Like, and so, and so I could feel their pain. And I was like, okay, let me work with this issues, because somebody would have knee pain and then I would feel that. And so I had to work with my mind to actually recenter that. So instead, now what I ask people to do is I say, well, where is your pain? And then I just check into that part of the body instead of just leaving the door wide open. And so,
Does anyone's physical issue ever impact you in a way that lingers?
no, actually, it leaves me feeling really good. I love shifting pain. I love people having results. To me is everything, because, going through my injury for years of trying everything, and I just wanted results. I didn't care where they came from. I just wanted to heal. And I was like literally meditating in theta state and binaural beats for hours and hours and hours, even while I slept. And I didn't sleep much because I was injured and a mess, but all of the time there was something playing, or bells, or, my house sounded like an ashram. And then, literally, I was like, I don't care what it is. I just want to heal. And so to me, every time I watch people get results or have the epiphany or wake up to the awareness of it, honestly, it just makes me feel so good. And people feel empowered. Like I'll show people how to release their pain. And the first thing I say is they'll see that their pain is gone. They go, oh my gosh, that's gone, or whatever health issue. And I say, and you did that. I just showed you how to use your own mind. And I love that empowerment too.
And you're not taking it on, like some empaths will actually take on other people's pain.
Yeah, no, I no, even when I would feel people's pain, I said, okay, well, let me resituate this. So I just,
Made a choice.
I fixed that in my mind. Yeah. I was like, okay, wait, we're yeah. I had to come to Jesus, so to speak, or come to universe. And I was like, we got to reorganize this whole gift thing.
Brandy, it's been fascinating having you here today. If people want to know more, where can we send them?
Either my website at brandygillmore.com, and Gillmore is with 2 L's, GILLMORE.com. And my book, Master Your Mind and Energy to Heal Your Body, is anywhere that books are sold.
Beautiful. Thank you again for joining us.
Can I tell you, Linda, you're beautiful, and thank you for having me. And I love your energy and your heart, and and your questions just brilliant. And you're just beautiful. So thank you for spending this time together with me.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Come visit me at thoughtchange.com to discover what energy medicine can do for you. And we will see you again next time. Bye for now.